apart from Ceres as the only dwarf planet located within the classical solar system, between Mars and Jupiter. It places itself in a special polarity with Xewioso, which is the first dwarf planet after Neptune and the first of the pre-Plutonic group. Ceres represents the pragmatic management of the Earth's resources, the raw material, the cultivated field. It acts as a junction. It also represents the devaluation of oneself and the lack, but more precisely, the substance. Ceres is the raw product, providing the resources and representing biological hunger. If you want to know how a person manages their way of eating, look at Ceres in the birth chart. Xewioso is the first pre-Plutonian and immediately follows Neptune. It represents the suspension of reality, the hunger for image. It is ephemeral. It is advertising, cinema, the visual software of the aesthetic interface, the media flow, the packaging, collective hypnosis, aesthetics, rendering, visual suggestion, marketing, appearance, the visual idea. The material becomes a symbol, staging, aesthetic metamorphosis, advertising image, seductive. It is the aura, the visual aesthetic desire, the transformation into an icon, the charm of special effects. If you want to know how a person is influenced by ephemeral appearances, look at Xewioso in the birth chart. 2002 KX14 provisional name KNUM represents technical creativity, the model, the design, the prototype, the technology of 3D printers, the precision, the hardware, the intellectual form, the design and technical manipulation of matter. It is functional. It is physical law. It is the act of doing, but also feasibility, engineering, manufacturing, construction. If you want to know the degree of manual dexterity of a person, look at 2002 KX14 in the birth chart. Orcus, the Plutino object that always transits in the opposite sign to that in which Pluto transits, represents the imposition of ethical rigor, the moral counterweight, micromanagement, control anxiety, symmetry. It acts as a barrier to chaos, with bureaucracy, limiting with standardizations to be respected and regulations. But all that neatness and perfectionism tends towards OCD. Orcus intervenes, verifies, corrects, imposes compliance with laws, agreements, and promises, subjects it to continuous testing, maniacally cataloging and classifying. If you want to know if a person is suffering from obsessive-compulsive disorder, look at the position of Orcus in the birth chart. 2003UZ413 provisional name Tlaltecutli represents primordial matter, the extractive economy, primary needs, mass industrial production, the accumulation of entropy, the cost of energy, burnout, the landfill, the abyss that swallows voraciously, mass consumption. What is visceral? Waste disposal. It is the matter that is consumed, the waste, the inert matter, the residue, the waste, the mouth to be satisfied. If you want to know how a person manages his energy consumption and the residues that remain, look at 2003UZ413 in the birth chart. Ixion is the structural rebellion, the tendency to self-destruction, the challenge to taboos, the no of those who disobey and don't care about anything, the individual violation, the crime, the collision, the individual who breaks the collective flow, the disturbing action, the push beyond the limit, the breaking of agreements, the hubris, the transgression, the drift, the individual who challenges the nature of things, the tendency to have no inhibitory brakes, the sin, the affirmation of the rebellious ego, the insatiable craving, in an attempt to feel alive. If you want to know if a person has a tendency to be an irredeemable contrarian, look at Ixion in the birth chart. Lempo is the same distance from the Sun as Pluto. It represents magnetism, Eros in its darkest mode, complexity, the tendency to be attracted or to attract by dangerous people, the cancellation of boundaries, visceral and dark desire, bad thoughts, libido, the desire for psychological possession, the drive that arises. And in a polarity relationship with 2017 of 69 Okeanos represents the tension between what is perceived as mine and what belongs to the whole, and therefore a crisis of the will of the ego. If you want to know if a person has disturbing tendencies that would make him a stalker, or how he handles relationship triangles, look at Lempo in the birth chart. 2017 of 69 provisional name Okeanos, ocean, represents a sort of Neptune of objective reality. The original flow, inexhaustible movement, the ocean of information at our current disposal, the immersion in the digital world, the dissolution of the ego. Okeanos does not hold back. He does not impose. He is libertine. It is spiritual flow, the digital infinite, the cloud, the mix of things, globalization, where everything flows, in abandonment to the currents, in passive acceptance. If you want to know how a person manages their online freedom, look at 2017 of 69 in the birth chart.